Hello and welcome. I'm Thomas Porteous and you're watching The World Report on NewsX World. We are, of course, covering the developing situation as tensions rise in the Middle East. There has been a war that has broken out within the past 48 hours after Israel and the United States struck Iran, leading to the death of the supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. This has, of course, led to the Iranians retaliating, aiming at sites inside Israel and American bases in the region. We have an update from earlier. According to Israel's emergency service, a barrage of missiles launched from Iran killed at least 8 people in central Israel. This new death toll has not been confirmed by the Israeli government as of now, but certain news agencies are covering this, trusted news agencies. So 8 people now have been confirmed dead inside Israel, according to reports. Joining us now to discuss the ongoing volatility in the Middle East is Shruti Dasgupta. She is an international affairs analyst. She joins us live from New Delhi. Shruti, thank you so much for taking the time and speaking to us here on the broadcast. The Iron Dome in Israel, of course, the country's staple defense mechanism, usually is very reliable. However, we did see chinks in the armor there in the 12-day war. It seems like we're seeing the same thing in this conflict. 8 people now killed in Beit Shemesh in central Israel. What does that say about Israel's air defense abilities? That Iranian missiles can in fact still get through here, and Israeli citizens are at risk.
That's true for any air defense system. When you have a large barrage of missiles aimed at you, ammunition aimed at you, even if 1 or 2 gets through, they are going to cause immense damage. And that is true for Israel. It is not infallible. It is not complete and precise. They use multiple systems, the Arrow along with the Patriot and the other bits, but it is never, it is not going to be completely secure. So the lives of Israelis are at risk. They have been at risk in the 12-day war. They have been at risk now. This is the cost that Israel pays for trying to start a war with a power that does have ballistic missiles shooting right across from the other side of that entire zone. Did the Israelis ask for it? Not really. It is a consequence of war. If you declared a war on one nation, obviously you're going to have to take the pushback from Iran as well. They are trying. I know for sure a few of our correspondents or my friends as correspondents have told us that they give the siren, they give enough indications for people to go find shelter, and then they go back to their normal lives as much as they can under the current circumstances. But it doesn't change the fact that they are at war and they will also face the wrath of Iran, however much can trickle through the entire defense system.
Shruti, do stay with us. Gedaliah Blum joins us now, an international affairs analyst. Gedaliah, thank you very much for taking the time and joining us. What do you have to say about the feeling in the Middle East right now? Of course, Israel's air defenses are a lot more capable than the Iranian ones. However, missiles are still getting through. How are people reacting on the ground? And what is the feeling about this brand new war in the Middle East?
First of all, thank you for having me in between my trips to my bomb shelters with my wife and my 8 children and my dog, as a military helicopter had just flown by as you were introducing me. I would just like to say the language of your previous guest was actually very interesting, talking about the wrath of the Iranian regime, and that this was some sort of war that was invited upon Israel. And I would just like to say very simply, this is a defensive war. When an Iranian regime is building up their nuclear program, their ballistics program, killing their own people, calling death to America, death to Israel, we're not inviting a war. We have many neighbors throughout the region who don't seek nuclear weapons, who aren't building who aren't building ballistic missiles, and we don't have war with them. We're not inviting war for the sake of war. We are inviting war in order to have peace, so we don't have to run in and out of bomb shelters, or God forbid, have a nuclear bomb land in Tel Aviv. Now, when it comes to the ballistic missiles and the air defense systems, I will like to correct both of you, if you don't mind, that the ballistic missile that did fall in Beit Shemesh that killed right now 8 people, I'm hearing 12 on the ground. My cousin is actually a paramedic on the ground right now, and he says it's an absolute nightmare of what he's seeing right now. The missile was shot down overhead. It was intercepted. And what we're seeing is the shrapnel that falls down. And that's primarily why we're running into the shelters, because our air defense systems, although they're not completely airtight, they are extremely successful. I believe well over 200 ballistic missiles have been shot at Israel. And I believe only one of them actually landed intact. The one at Beit Shemesh just earlier today was shot down, and the shrapnel became the result of these deaths, and up to 20 injured. So I do think that the people here on the ground, myself included and my family, we understand that as we walk into the shelter every single day and stay safe, this is our contribution to finally getting to peace with the people of Iran.
Well, Gedalai, I'm very happy you're safe. Do stay with us as we turn over to another development coming out of Israel. In a recent statement, the Israeli army spokesperson, Brigadier General Efri Defrin, confirmed that Israel is in the second day of Operation Roaring Lion, aimed at dismantling the Iranian terror regime and neutralizing long-term threats to Israel's security. He highlighted that over the past 24 hours, Israel targeted and struck Iranian command centers, air defense systems, and missile arrays. He also confirmed that in the operation's opening strike, 40 senior Iranian commanders and officials were eliminated in just 1 minute. Defrin further revealed that the Israeli Air Force, using precise intelligence, targeted and killed Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, calling him the arch-murderer and the architect of the plan to destroy Israel. He emphasized Khamenei's role in orchestrating terrorist activities against Israel and the West, particularly noting his responsibility for the October the 7th attack. Defrin concluded by stressing that the operation's success marks a significant step in dismantling Iran's terror network. Let's listen into the statements.
אנחנו נמצאים ביממה השנייה למבצע שאגת הארי. יצאנו למבצע כדי לפגוע במשטר הטרור האיראני ולהסיר איומים קיומיים על מדינת ישראל לאורך זמן. ביממה האחרונה פגענו קשות במשטר, במטרות הפיקוד והשליטה, במערכי ההגנה האווירית שלו ובמערך הטילים. יש לנו הישגים טובים ועוד מטרות רבות לפנינו. במכת הפתיחה של המבצע, צה"ל חיסל 40 מפקדים ובכירים מהמשטר האיראני בדקה אחת. כעת ניתן לומר כי בתקיפה עוצמתית ומדויקת של מטוסי חיל האוויר ובהכוונה מודיעינית מדויקת של אמ"ן, חיסלנו את רב המרצחים ואבי התוכנית להשמדת ישראל, עלי חמינאי. חמינאי עמד בראש משטר הטרור האיראני במשך עשרות שנים, והוביל פעולות טרור נגד מדינת ישראל והעולם המערבי כולו. הוא ראש התמנון האיראני, ששלח זרועות הטרור שלו לכל המזרח התיכון, ועל ידיו דם נרצחי ונטבחי ה7 באוקטובר.
Gedalai Blum joins us once again in this discussion. There have been celebrations around the world from Iranians who now live abroad, from Iranians inside Iran. We're, of course, getting limited information there. However, there are some fears that this operation might be illegal under international law. The fact that Donald Trump didn't get approval from his Congress to launch said attacks, but going to the UN Charter, Article 51, the self-defense exception, there are concerns around these preemptive strikes, as both Israel and the United States call them. They say that the inherent right of an individual or collective to self-defense if an armed attack occurs. Of course, an armed attack didn't occur this is, from Iran to either party. Can I get your response to some of that criticism, Gedaliah?
I'm not a big proponent on what people call international law. International law really comes down to a set of directives that come from a consensus, yet the consensus is always broken by whoever's stronger. So let's just put that in place. There's absolutely no consensus when it comes to any prosecution, when it comes to any what do you want to call it? I'm sorry, I'm lost for words. But there's no court of law. There's no court of law that's consensus. You have the ICJ and the ICC, but they're not signed on by the world of nations around the world. So this becomes more of a political tool, as we've seen when the ICJ brought Israel to court for genocide, in which it was the only genocide in the world that ever produced a higher population than when the war actually started. But that's besides the point. I would also say that the assassination attempt on Donald Trump is certainly not a passive, non-confronting way of engaging with the U.S. Number one, when it comes to Iranian proxies, them sending over billions of dollars to the Houthis, to Hamas, directing October 7th, Hezbollah, arming Hezbollah to attack us, to kidnap our people, to slaughter our children, our babies, Holocaust survivors. That's certainly not something that you could say the Iranian regime has not been any aggressive towards Israel or the United States. So I think if you want to look maybe in the last couple of weeks, I think that you might have a point. But if you look at the history of the regime, they have been nothing but a terror regime, not only against Israel and the U.S. and other Western interests, but their own people as well. And we know this more than anything when we see in the streets of London, when we see in the streets of New York or LA, wherever, where the Iranians who are able to escape the Islamic regime are dancing on the street in a way that they've never thought in their lifetime that they would ever see this Islamic regime, this oppressive regime that is the source, the head of the snake of so many atrocities around the world and torture. Okay. Killing their own women for showing their own hair. It's unbelievable to even think for a second that international law would actually protect them and to enable them to stay in power, to continue their oppression.
Okay, Gedaliah, do stay with us once again as we turn over to our next story. Reactions have been pouring in from the Gulf, and at least 3 people have been killed and 58 others wounded in the United Arab Emirates since Iran launched its retaliatory missile strikes in the Gulf, responding to US and Israeli attacks. The UAE Defense Ministry reported detecting 165 ballistic missiles, destroying 152 and intercepting 2 cruise missiles. Additionally, 551 Iranian drones were detected, with 506 intercepted and destroyed. The casualties include individuals from Pakistan, Nepal and Bangladesh, according to the ministry's statement on the ongoing situation. We have further news coming in from the Gulf region, where Kuwait's Ministry of Health reported that 1 person was killed and 32 others injured due to the ongoing regional developments. The victims are currently receiving treatment at Al Aden Hospital. The Health Ministry did not provide further details on the incident, but confirmed the severity of the casualties. Shruti Dasgupta joins us in this discussion. Of course, the United Arab Emirates, Shruti, and Kuwait, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, all of these countries have US military bases in them, and they're therefore relevant targets to the Iranian military. How might diplomatic relations now move forward with these Gulf countries, which, by the way, the Trump administration does see as very valuable after this attack?
Most of these nations are fed up of being attacked just by association. They do not like the fact that their economy is going to take the hit of being part of the conflict. They don't like the fact that their businesses are going to be stalled for whatever reasons, that the Strait of Hormuz is going to be choked. They do not like having to use millions and millions of dollars to intercept Iranian missiles and drones to protect their nation when they were not the ones to start the war. So they are not part of the actual conflict, but they are bearing the brunt of it. And they are right now, all of them in united voice, condemning Iranian attacks on their nations, on their people, and on their sovereignty. Up till now, their actions have been defensive, as in they are using only defensive equipment and are not ready to engage with Iran on a military level. They are hoping that better sense will prevail and talks will resume. I believe Trump's statement was that maybe these attacks would make negotiating with the team of Iran easier. So that would be a hint that Trump hopes that the Iran's team comes back to the talking table and signs the deal the way they want it and end the war and have a paper document that will at least protect whoever is left in Iran in terms of their military power as well as their regime. But whether, as of now, Iran is not in the mood. They are, I believe my word choice was completely correct when I said wrath, because they're very angry at having had their supreme leader taken out of action. So they're very angry, and that comes down in the form of their wrath in terms of military might. But they are, as of now, headless, because they are one of the ships they have attacked in Strait of Hormuz is part of their own shadow fleet. So there is a vacuum that has been created. They have intelligence vacuum, they have leadership vacuums, and it'll take time for it to be plugged in. But unfortunately for all of us, the region of Gulf is going to face a war of attrition, where Iran is going to continue attacking by slow weight to all these nations, and these nations now have to decide whether they are going to only play the game defensively or are going to go and unite against Iran and have it come down on its knees and say, I'm sorry, this is going to stop.
Okay, Shruti, stay with us once again. We turn over to further updates. We have more numbers coming in. According to Israel's emergency service, a barrage of missiles launched from Iran killed at least 9 people in central Israel. These are the figures that we have. This new death toll has not been confirmed by the Israeli government as of now. We turn over to Syria next, and Israel has intercepted an Iranian missile over the country, causing a loud explosion heard across Damascus, according to a Syrian Interior Ministry source. According to reports, the blast was the result of the Israeli interception. Further news coming in from the region. Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry has summoned the Iranian ambassador following accusations that Tehran targeted its territory with strikes. The ministry condemned Iran's actions, describing them as brazen attacks against the kingdom and several other countries in the region. This escalation comes amid heightened tensions between Iran and Gulf nations, further intensifying the already volatile situation. Gedaliah joins us once again. What does this attack from the United States and Israel mean for the more broader Middle East region, bringing in those Gulf countries as well?
Well, I'll start off by saying I know we discussed international law, in which I completely just pushed away, but there's no discussion of the same people talking about international law when it comes to the Iranian regime just shooting in every single which way, which direction. But as your other guest did point out, which I agree with, is that the Iranian regime is completely leaderless. They have no intelligence. I think that there's most likely infighting because the leadership had driven them down this road off this cliff and now there's no leadership right now. So they're trying to figure out which way to go, and I'm sure there's a lot of infighting. They're shooting in every which way. As I mentioned before, their justification is that there are U.S. bases in those different countries. Unfortunately, what they're doing is they're shooting at hotels. They're shooting in residential areas. They're indiscriminate, and I think that should be something that should be spoken about. The dangers of the Iranian regime, and this is exactly why we here in Israel, we do not see that there's any there's no off ramp here, except for complete surrender of the Iranian regime. They step down and they allow the people to come and to build a federal government, a democracy in which they are fighting for on the streets, in which they are dying for on the streets. And so, with that being said, I think that this whole idea that the Iranian regime is, shooting in every direction, it illustrates just exactly where they are, especially with them shooting at and sinking. I believe, I'm not sure if it's sunk yet, but I think that it did sink their own ship. They're just completely inept at this point. They're more dangerous than ever, and I think they need to be shut down.
There are of course concerns about the way at which the United States and Israel have gone about this operation. Leaving a power vacuum can be seen as a dangerous thing. Of course, Iran has a powerful military, a population of 90 million people, vast land. Are the people who do you have any concerns over the way in which the Americans and the Israelis have conducted this operation? Let's cite, for example, the Venezuela operation. Of course, Maduro was removed, but his government still very much is in operation. All those pillars are still there. Gedaliah, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think we're dealing with a much different situation because the Iranian regime's strength is not in their army, it's not in the IRGC, it's not in their technology, it's not in their ballistic missiles. Their strength was always the threat of their proxy armies, Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis. In fact, I just want to bring up a point which I find very interesting, is that right now the Iranian regime is facing an existential threat, and their own proxies in which they invested in for decades are sitting it out right now. Hezbollah, as far as I know, has not shot anything over into Israel. The Houthis also are staying out. Hamas, of course, has been pretty much inactive right now. They're pretty much trying to deal with their own police state in Gaza and trying to hold on to any power that they can. They're not interested in engaging with Israel anymore. And so what we're seeing right now with the Iranian regime is it's an opportunity to see their vulnerabilities as this paper tiger, because their proxies are no longer standing shoulder to shoulder with them. They're not answering their calls anymore. So I think at this point right now, the way that America and Israel are engaging with the Iranian regime is in line with exactly what the hundreds of thousands, millions of protesters on the ground have been calling for 40 years. They said, you're either with us or you're against us. And they said this to Obama, and they said this to Trump, and Trump said that he promises he's going to be there for them. And I think, and I hope that Trump is going to fulfill his promise and not use this opportunity to get back to the negotiating table in order to allow them give them a lifeline to continue to oppress their own people and to spread their Islamism throughout the world.
Gedaliah Blum, thank you so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Great pleasure to talk to you as always, and thank you for taking the time. We have more breaking news coming in from this ever-developing situation. More reactions coming in from Iran itself. The Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian affirmed that Iran would persist in its military actions, stating that they will continue following in the footsteps of their supreme leader. He emphasized that Iran's armed forces would continue to strike hard and destroy enemy military bases. Pezeshkian also described the martyrdom of the revolutionary leader as the culmination of years of sacrifice, reaffirming the country's resolve in its ongoing conflict. Further updates coming your way. Israel's defense minister Israel Katz described the killing of Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah Khamenei, as a turning point in the ongoing war with the Islamic Republic. Katz emphasized Khamenei's leadership in orchestrating efforts against Israel, calling him the architect of the axis of evil surrounding the nation. He further highlighted Khamenei's uncompromising stance against Israel and stated that his elimination, along with other senior Iranian officials, marks a significant shift. Katz made these remarks during a security assessment with top military and security officials. Let's listen in.
אני חושב שהחיסול אתמול של הצורר היהודים הגדול ביותר של התקופה הזאת, חמינאי, הוא דבר מאוד משמעותי. הוא האיש שהוביל את מהלך ההשמדה מול מדינת ישראל, הוא בנה סביבנו את כל ציר הרשע, הוא באיראן עצמה הוביל קו בלתי מתפשר נגד מדינת ישראל, ולכן הסיכול שלו זו נקודת מפנה.
Shruti joins us once again to discuss this. Your thoughts on the Iranian president's statements there, Shruti? Of course, him reiterating that Iran will maintain its stance even despite the death of their supreme leader.
Well, because I do believe he is saying exactly what he believes. They had contingency plans already in place up to 3 levels of succession. So they know that this is not going to go away just because Khamenei is dead. So there is a power vacuum, definitely. But there's somebody who's going to step up and take over. I think Arafi has already taken over as an interim Ayatollah until and unless the assembly of experts kind of get together and find the new Ayatollah for Iran. It also shows that they do view his death very seriously. It might just be the last straw on the camel's back, and they will probably continue to do the things that they were blamed for up till now, but were never really actually doing. They were not attacking others directly, non-state actors, yes, but not directly. But now they're going to go after every one of them. I would like to address what your previous guest said, that their non-state actors are not acting. They are. The Houthis have promised to sink every single one of those ships in the from their zones. The Hezbollah of Iraq, I believe they're called Khatab Hezbollah, have promised to ensure that all the 2,500 American soldiers posted in Iraq shall pay for the death of Khamenei with their own blood. There has been a PMF movement that has started already attacking in parts of Syria, which was used as a place of convenience for this particular attack. So their non-state actors are doing their very best. Of course, they are reduced because Iran was reduced in terms of economy as well as strength. This shows that Iran is ready to take it to any level. They will not stop. Neither will the regime step down. This is not Venezuela, that you take out the head and then you say you're done. It doesn't work that way for Iran. Iran is an ideology-based system, and the ideology persists. As many number of people you saw dancing in the streets on the death of Khamenei, there are double the number weeping their hearts out today in Iran for the martyrdom of Khamenei. I do not support the Iranian regime or Khamenei, but I do know that those people are extremely nationalist and ideology-driven. You can't take the ideology of the people. You can kill that head, but you cannot take that entire ideology out of the minds of the people.
Indeed. Shruti, thank you so much for joining us here on the broadcast. Great pleasure to talk to you, and thanks for taking the time as always. We have further updates coming out of this situation. A vessel was struck by an unknown projectile 17 nautical miles northwest of Mina Sakt, located in the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah, the United Arab Emirates, according to the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations. The projectile caused a fire on board, which has since been extinguished despite the incident. The vessel plans to continue its voyage. The UK MTO provided no further details regarding the nature of the projectile or the vessel's condition following the attack, but confirmed the fire had been controlled. Lebanese residents in Beirut have shared mixed reactions after hearing about the death of Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah. Some criticized the assassination, calling it an act of terrorism, and others called for stability in Lebanon, reflecting the country's long list of conflicts. Let's listen in.
اغتيال المرشد ليس عمل بطولي من دولتين إرهابيتين بالعالم كله. إنه هل يعتقد بعقلهم هن إذا اغتالوا المرشد إنه اغتالوا النهج، اغتالوا الثورة، اغتالوا النظام؟ عنا آلاف المرشدين.
كل شيء بيصير برات لبنان بيأثر علينا ونحن مرتبطين بهيدي العملية فيهم. يعني شغلة كتير متوقع إنه صار لهم أشهر بيحضروا لهذا الموضوع، وهذا بيضحك على هذا وهذا بيضحك على هذا، اجتماعات وما اجتماعات، كل واحد عم بيحضر حاله لو وصلنا لهون. طبيعي يعني كانوا بيعملوا مفاوضات وهن عم بيحضروا عم بيبعتوا كل هالاساطير لشو تيشموا الهوا يعني.
The Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi states in an interview that the country has initiated a constitutional process with the establishment of the Transitional Council to manage national affairs. Abbas Araghchi emphasized Iran's stance on defense, declaring that the country had no restrictions or limits in defending ourselves. We now move on to economic implications coming out of this conflict. OPEC Plus has reportedly announced a larger than expected increase in oil production quotas following recent US and Israeli strikes on Tehran that triggered Iranian retaliation across the Middle East. According to reports, the group, which includes major oil producers like Saudi Arabia and Russia, as well as several Gulf states affected by Iran's strikes, have agreed to increase production over 200,000 barrels per day. The adjustment is set to take effect in April and has been attributed to a steady global economic outlook, although the statement did not directly mention the ongoing Iran conflict. Joining us now is Mitali Nikore, an economist, joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Mitali, for joining us here on the broadcast to discuss the economic implications of all this drama. Mitali, the oil industry, of course, severely affected by these volatilities coming out of the Middle East. What more can you tell us about the implications that it's going to have and affect the oil industry?
So I think it's a deeply concerning situation. First of all, the state of war that is emerging in the Middle East, and it seems to be a prolonged conflict. It doesn't seem to be one where we would be seeing a resolution anytime soon. In order to prepare for these situations, the OPEC Plus has actually been meeting for several days. And Riyadh had actually been planning to raise its own oil production in the recent weeks in preparation for these US strikes on Iran, actually. Reuters has actually been reporting this, and that's actually quite interesting. So we now see that OPEC Plus has agreed to raise production to around 200,000 barrels per day, up from around 137,000 barrels per day. Given that the Strait of Hormuz is going to most probably be officially closed already. A lot of the liners that are operating in the Strait of Hormuz have been told not to operate for the next few days. And the Strait of Hormuz actually accounts for nearly a fifth of global oil movement and exports. So definitely, a concerning situation when it comes to global oil prices.
Indeed. Tell us a bit more about the Strait of Hormuz, Mitali. As you've said, it is one of the most crucial waterways in the world when it comes to trade. I believe around 20% of oil, of the world's oil, flows through that waterway. If Iran were to close it, what might that do for oil prices worldwide?
Expecting is that on Friday, when before this entire situation developed, the Brent Crude futures actually closed at about $72.5 a barrel. So it just rose about 2.5% and closed at about $72.5 a barrel. Now, there were consultations that were actually held with the US president, where senior consultants from the OPEC actually briefed the president of the US that if this continues, if the Strait of Hormuz is closed for several days, and if there's a prolonged warlike situation, one could see the prices of global Brent go up to $100 a barrel and even cross that. Now, if we recall, the last time global oil prices were at that level was in 2019-20, and then again during COVID, they crossed around $100 a barrel. And governments across the world were dealing with massive bouts of inflation because they had to procure that oil at a very high price. So, very honestly, at this point in time, for all countries, I mean, the OPEC may raise its production, but the oil prices are all set to rise.
We'll be keeping tabs on that. Mitali, do stay with us as we turn over to our next story. The global energy and financial markets have been jolted by the US-Israeli strikes on Iran and the reported deaths of Iran's supreme leader. Brent crude oil surged to around $72 to $73 dollars per barrel, its highest level in months, as traders priced in the threat of supply disruptions through the Strait of Hormuz, a key route for nearly 20% of world oil flows. Analysts warn that if supply routes are genuinely disrupted or the conflict deepens, oil could test $80 or more per barrel, though some strategists suggest there may be limits to how high prices rise without actual output outages. At the same time, investors have moved into safe haven assets. Gold prices climbed sharply, with international spot gold surpassing $5,300 per ounce amid the surge in risk aversion and demand for traditional stores of value. The jump reflects broader risk of sentiment, with equities under pressure and heightened volatility across markets as geopolitical tensions continue to escalate. Mitali, how normal is this for the likes of oil and gold to respond to these geopolitical situations in which we are seeing now?
No, I mean, this is definitely to be expected. In fact, today I was reading a very interesting analysis which the US Energy Agency had actually put down, the US Energy Information Administration analysis of the last 5 years of oil handled through the Strait of Hormuz. And it's very interesting because they've mentioned that it handles about 20 million barrels of oil per day. And any disruption to the oil flows from this strait can actually impact several countries like the UAE. It can impact several countries like India, China, particularly China. So I think it's a very, very interesting analysis because it means that this attack, of course, is premeditated. And one of the driving factors could even be to disrupt the oil supply flows and look at how oil supply can be restarted even from Venezuela.
Mitali, thank you so much. It's always a great thing to get your explanation on these economic issues. Thank you for taking the time. We now move on to even more news. The United Arab Emirates government media office has announced that a drone attack targeted the building of the Israeli embassy in Abu Dhabi. No further information has been provided by officials on this drone attack as of now, but we'll continue to bring you all the updates coming out of that story in the United Arab Emirates. But we move on now, and Iran's Revolutionary Guards has announced that they targeted the US aircraft carrier, the Abraham Lincoln, with 4 ballistic missiles. The statement released by Iran's state media did not provide further details on the missile strike's success or any damage caused. This escalation adds to the ongoing tensions between Iran and the United States in the region. We're continuing to bring you all the developments coming out of the brand new Middle Eastern conflict. Iran's supreme leader, of course, having been killed over the past 48 hours. But we'll continue to do that. But for this hour, that's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more international news updates.